Okay, as promised, I am going to give you this review for your midterm. So let's get started. Okay, so remember, psychology is the study of two things. It's the study of your behaviors and remember that psychologists specialize in clinical fields. We talked about the number in the very beginning. Just remember that the number is high. All right, know the difference between quantitative and qualitative data. So remember that your quantitative data is all about numbers, and qualitative data is all about in-depth information that you get from talking, from interviewing, from different things that people say. Okay, know the difference between describing behavior and explaining behavior. That's another question. Remember who gets the credit for founding the first psych lab. Remember, I pronounce his name with a V, and it's a German name. Zipping right through these. Know who the first Black woman was to earn her PhD in psychology. My boy Sigmund Freud. What is he the father of? Know that. Also, remember how I talk about Freud and how amazing and awesome he is, but his oh my gosh, why can't I think? His people, the people that are kind of against him, but also they said, you know, Freud, you have a good idea, but there's no this to back you up. So they still keep him around because his what he thought was pretty genius, but there was something that was lacking. So know what that is. We should know what psychoanalysis is with Freud, but then we flip to humanism. Humanism looks at a whole different thing, and it's positive. So know what the goal of humanism is. When we're looking at the scientific method, we need to do something with our hypothesis. What is that? We're either finding blank for this or we aren't. So don't automatically think it is the one thing I consistently say, no, no, no. So just think about that one. All right. Know what a theory is and know what a prediction is. Know what a theory does. A theory blank behavior and a hypothesis blanks. All right, this is kind of fun. All right, this one talks about Piaget a little bit. And remember what I said when you're doing research and you're doing research on one person or a unit of family. When you're doing experiments and natural observations and different things like that, what is it when you're just looking at one person? Know that. Know the relationships as it relates to correlation coefficients. They go from this to that. So look it up if you have to, but what is it? The correlation coefficient goes from this number to this number. All right. In contrast with blank research allows cause and effect conclusion. So know what type of research uses the cause and effect. One's looking for one thing, one's looking for another. I'm basically giving you guys this. You know that, right? You just may have to stop and pause and whatever. I got to make it a little bit tricky for you. No, I'm just kidding. You know I don't like tricky. All right. Know what the difference between an independent and a dependent variable is. Pretty simple. Know what the science is of collecting data, organizing, analyzing, all those things I say I can't stand. Know what branch of science that is. It's pretty easy when you see it, because when you think of numbers, you'll automatically think of this. All right, know the difference between the mean, the median, and the mode. So know what all of those entail. All right, little scenario. When you're doing psychological research, or you're doing any kind of study, you have to not tell people what is going on in the study. You can't tell people's identifying information. What's that called? You have to keep this. All right, at the end of a study or an experiment, when you tell people the reason why I had to lie to you was because of this. And so this is what this term is called. Also, in an experiment, you do this before you actually start the experiment. It also happens when you see a doctor for the first time. There's something that you have to sign. What is that called? Moving right along. Know the difference between the scans, and more specifically, what scan uses or looks at blood flow. Know that. Know what happens when a person suffers with MS. What part, know what neurotransmitter, well, that's not the word, so don't get excited when you see that, but know what part is damaged when it comes to MS. How do you find it? Look. Okay. Know the link between Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So one of these neurotransmitters really affects Alzheimer's, and one of these really affects Parkinson's. So know the difference, or know what to go with what. Also know when someone is suffering with depression and they are prescribed medications, what is it supposed to boost? This is something I talk about a lot. It boosts their what? Their something levels. You've got your, when you're boogieing and there's something that's freaking you out, the fight or flight. What part of the system in your body is in control of that? And then when you're like, hey, I'm chilling, I'm in my downtime, what part of the body is now responsible for that? There are two areas of the brain that are, that'll give that away. There are two people, Broca and Wernicke, spelled with a W, but again, German, so we pronounce it with V. Ooh, that might give you a hint from question way in the beginning. Know when these two areas of the brain are damaged, what do those two areas affect? Both are different components of this, but they both affect this. So know what that is. Know where all your higher order thinking occurs. So what lobe is responsible for all of your executive functioning, all of your, decision-making skills? You've got your frontal lobe, your parietal lobe, your temporal lobe, and your occipital lobe. Which one is responsible for your higher level thinking? Know what your occipital lobe processes, and then know where auditory information is processed from. Know the difference between sensation. Okay, so everybody thinks they can multitask, right? I mean, most people do, until they realize they can't. So what is the real number of people that can multitask? Now, we know that it's very hint. Okay. When it comes to color deficiency, Know the two colors that are very difficult distinguishing from. Know the difference between loudness and pitch. Loudness is measured in this, and pitch is measured in that. Teenagers. Teenagers. All right. What, from listening to all that loud music and going to all them loud concerts, but not now because COVID sucks. But no, it's 1 in blank suffer from hearing loss. What? Oh yeah, I'm not young. Okay, that's all right. Know that in your senses, in your 5 senses, this sense is tied to your memories. What sense is that? This is just a definition. Know the definition. Know what consciousness is. How about that? Know the difference between subjective and objective. Subjective is, well, I can't give you the answer, but subjective is, what does that relate to? And what does it mean to be objective? Remember when we were talking and I showed you all those videos about selective attention, inattentional blindness, the magician trick, the gorilla basketball. What is it called? Remember when I said if you're in a crowded room and you're talking and then all of a sudden you hear like your name or you hear your school mentioned and you're like, boom. What is that called? And what system does that fall under? What attention does that fall under? Also another one related to that is, well, I guess just know the difference between the attentions I gave you, the selective attention, the inattentional blindness, the change blindness. Be able to differentiate between those. Remember I said we spent this much amount of time sleeping. This amount of time in our lives we spend sleeping. Know that number or percentage or fraction. Know, what did I tell you about, when we're talking about consciousness and sleeping? Oh my gosh. I'm in the middle of a flip lecture. Can I call you right back? I'm actually recording. Yeah. Well, you guys, on review, I'm going to pause. Duty calls, my phone rang. All right, so going back to review, what did I say? Oh, remember when I was telling you of the different sleep disorders? Know what happens when you are having an episode and you're super terrified when you're in your sleep. What happens to your body? Know that. Know what happens when in all of the sleep disorders, one of the disorders when it's called sleep apnea, and that literally means without breath. Who do you think that affects more? What when you're looking at people and their kind of physiological background, etc., who do you think that would affect more? The sleep apnea. Know the difference between nightmares and night terrors. Know the difference in Freud's psychoanalytic theory of dreams. There are 2 different types of content in a dream. There is your actual dream content, and then your wait, how did I say that? I'm sorry. It's your actual dream is related to this, and then the content of the dream is related to that. So it's in Freud's analysis of dreams. 2 terms that you need to know. Also, remember when we talked about when you're in control of your dreams, and it's an art to be able to be in control of your actual dreams. What is that called? Remember what I said about dreaming, and you go through a cycle of this, how many minutes is that cycle? And I said, if you get an average of 7 hours sleep, approximately how many dream cycles do you go through? Know the different variations of drugs, and well, you should already know, but know what like Vicodin and Oxycontin are, the synthetic painkillers. Just know what classes those are. Know your classes of benzodiazepines. Know your classes of depressants, because in the test, it's going to give you a drug class, and you're going to need to know what that falls under, and you totally will. So know all of those. All right, there's that. Okay, so when you're on a certain drug that makes you feel amazing, it's the same that's linked with depression. So when you're feeling great and you're dancing all around, what neurotransmitter is that hitting? Again, now we're going into all the different drugs. Know what caffeine falls under. Know what the most widely used drug is in the United States. Know the definition of, this is a generic easy one, know the definition of learning when it comes to psychology. Know the difference between classical and operant conditioning. So remember when we talked about Ivan Pavlov and his dogs? What was he doing? What was he trying to get at in his experiment? So know that. Know the differences between stimulus. So when he was doing his experiment with the salivating dogs, he paired the bell with the food. Know what a neutral stimulus is. Know what a conditioned stimulus, an unconditioned response, all those types of things. Just know that when you see it in the scenario, you can look at it and say, oh, okay, that's the conditioned or that's the unconditioned. So know the difference of those. Remember we talked about with alcoholism, if you're trying to get help with alcoholism, and one of the strategies is taking a pill that makes you sick. Know what that is called. Let's see. Yeah, these all have to do with stimulus and conditioning. Okay, yep. This is more on operant and classical conditioning, so just little scenarios. Remember I told you the schedules of reinforcement. Those are on the next few questions. So know the difference between like positive punishment and negative punishment, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Know what those are. Those are pretty easy. I gave you the 4 scenarios for fixed ratio, fixed interval, variable interval, and variable ratio. When I've given you a scenario, just know the difference between what goes with what. It's all in the PowerPoints. Different scenario, but the information is still the same. So just know that. Remember the Bandura experiment with the Bobo doll and the video that I showed where the teacher was beating the Bobo? It's kind of like that monkey see, monkey do. What was Bandura trying to show in that experiment? Know that. Know how much... Oh, what is the average screen time that a child's... what was I saying? The average time that a child is on their device, whether it's their phone, computer, any type of device, playing video games, how many hours a day are they on it? Know the difference. Now we're moving to memory. Know the difference between storage. Remember I went over encoding, storage, and retrieval. When you're given a scenario, know what that means. So if I'm keeping information in, what's that called? If it's going in, what's that called? And when it's coming out, so know those differences. Know the differences between short-term and long-term memory. Remember when I went over on my presentation and I had a slew of all these letters and then I put them together? What did I call that? I discussed about like your social security number, your phone number, your driver's license number. It's easier to remember because they're in this. Know the difference between explicit and implicit memories. Remember what I always say, something explicit is kind of extra out there. Implicit, implied, it's more within. So know the difference between that. Know what this type of memory is. Remember, it's a type of memory like 9/11, Pulse, Sandy Hook, any type of major event that everybody can remember exactly where they were at. What type of memory is that? Know the difference between primacy and recency effect. Remember I had all the words and then you look at the beginning of the words, the middle words, and the end words. So know the difference between those two. Know what misinformation effect is. Know the difference between anterograde amnesia and retrograde amnesia. Remember, at the point of an accident, you will lose your memories from everything before the accident, or you will lose your memories at the point of accident after. So you won't retain new information, like in 50 First Dates. So just know the difference between retrograde and anterograde. And then, when someone says, you know, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it all along. What's that called? Know that? And then the final question, that's an easy one. I'm not even giving you that. So I hope this helped you. It may be a little all over the place in the beginning, but once you go back and you kind of look at it, I kind of gave this one to you. So you're welcome. So with that said, peace out. Have a wonderful day and good luck on your midterm on my birthday. It'll be a fabulous day. All right, peace.